hope that you can hear me. Just looking at the headlines of the day. Brexit supporters say that Prime Minister may be selling UK short over divorce bill. A surprising conclusion to draw. Headline which causes me lots of schadenfreude is the CEO of the LSE quitting under the back of the management round. I'm not quite sure what the problem is there, because the complaint there from the TCI, the hedge fund, doesn't quite tie in with what's going on there, but nevertheless, that particular gravy train post has now finished. And onto the markets. Obviously, the headline yesterday came from Bitcoin. Really, I think the actual reason for the decline there from the best levels. Just trying to get that chart of account. As you can see there, we're around 11,200, 300. Was one of the main websites for exchanging Bitcoin went down. CoinDesk or Coinbase, one of those, and for quite a few companies actually reported problems, and there was that I suppose a 20-25% decline. But we sort of stabilized at roughly where we were at this time yesterday, around 10,200, and it looks as though it's the usual situation there where you have a sharp decline for Bitcoin and then an untested low. So the low there just below 9,000. After that, the lowest you could see 9,500 or so, and higher highs and lows since then. So it looks as though that has stabilized. I can't actually hear Simon, but I'm hoping that Russell Jones is there, if he's there, because I can't hear anything at the moment. But let's see if that particular connection works.
Can you hear me, Zach? Zach, can you hear me?
Russell, good morning. It's Simon. I can hear you, and I think everybody will be able to.
Okay, I'll carry on.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Good morning. Obviously, the markets were extremely busy yesterday. In America, you saw a major sell-off with tech, and that was not just American tech, where you had all of the major FANGs being sold off, from Amazon 2.7%, Facebook 4%, Microsoft, Alphabet, Netflix at 5.5%. The Chinese FANG stocks as well were also sold off from 1.9 through to 4%, with Tencent the biggest drop. There's a lot of conversation going on this morning on CNBC. Is this the start of a sell-off? I think it's too early to say. It's just one day. However, there was a huge sell-off in America on that, so you saw a massive diverse between a strong position still with the Dow, still hoping on getting through the tax reforms, even if they're diluted down, compared to the tech stocks, which obviously had this big fall. In terms of the UK, with the Brexit bill supposedly possibly going to be put through, at least the divorce side to start, you saw an increase in the pound, which obviously went up significantly. It's at about 134.6 at the moment. And the retailers in the UK benefited. Obviously, most of them are importing their product in. Dixon's 6.9% up, Kingfisher 4.2%, M&S 3.8%, Next 4.4%, and even some of the smaller ones also benefited. So obviously a big rise. Similarly, you saw the housing sector benefiting in the same way, with all the builders up roughly around about 2%, varying from 1.6 to 3.6 on the biggies. So obviously a very positive position there. Ocado shares, as I said the previous day, when you see a big rise, sometimes we're seeing this trend of continuation. Ocado shares went up a further 16.1% yesterday, following on from the 20.9% previously. And despite that, their short position, they're now number one short. They've gone over 70%. However, as what Zach said, it's forward kind of potential, but some people still believe that the profit are going to come through. City World, they made
Russell, just on the Ocado thing. I mean, would you be long off the basis that people are actually squeezed up to the eyeballs on Ocado and just keep piling on against their pain?
I don't like the stock personally. I still think it operates. It's got great technology. Until it gets some more and more people coming into it, it's too much of a risk. I may be a little bit old-fashioned with bricks and mortar there. but I don't like the position of Ocado. It's not a Uber, which is totally overvalued, but I'm not comfortable with it from my own personal point of view.
But wouldn't, I mean, its problems could just be solved by somebody like Amazon just buying it for loose change. I mean, that would be the way of Amazon taking over in this country, wouldn't it? On the grocery side.
Yeah, that is one solution. But when obviously Amazon took over Farm Foods, obviously they closed all the stores outside of London. They just used the London stores then as a showpiece. There is a possibility in that, but there's so many opportunities in the market. For me personally, it's not one I would go into, and I'm a bit much of a risk taker. It's just something I don't. It's a bit like you go to a restaurant, you've got plenty of choice on the menu. It's not one for me.
Okay, and so Cineworld.
Cineworld made a bid for Regal Entertainment. Although they had a buy recommendation from Panama Golden in the morning, they fell by 19.8%, which again, what this reflects, there's quite a few American, it's a reverse takeover there. There's quite a few American cine houses, etc. They're struggling. People are staying at home, with the exception of China. In obviously the more developed part of they're staying at home. They're having to take away, and they're streaming Netflix. Stagecoach.
Don't you think that Cineworld might be biting off more than it can chew? I mean, the American graveyard for corporates.
I think it's a daft situation. I think it's a daft reverse takeover. Reverse takeover should be when the organisation you're taking over is really prospering, and I think that the overall market in America, it's so expensive to go to a cinema, and obviously, time you've got your popcorn and your drink, I just think it's such a declining market.
Okay.
In terms of Stagecoach, they had a positive yesterday. They moved up by 13%. Basically, they've been running it as a loss on that South franchise. They're now going to do a joint franchise in 2020, the East Coast Partnership, they're calling it. So they had a boost on the share price of 13.1%. In terms of, I'm just going to touch on Bitcoin, because I think it is important. Bitcoin, the two trackers which I emphasized to you yesterday, now obviously because they're dealing as a tracker, they're dealing within a market time frame, not a 24-hour program as what you see if you're dealing through IG.com or whatever. So the XBT tracker, which is in the SEK currency, that's Swedish krona. That went up 12.25% at market close yesterday. And I emphasize at market close. Market close is 425 there. And the euro version went up 10.98%. So huge increases. However, as Zach has already said, Bitcoin hit a high of 11,395, and then it dropped 21% with some of the IT problems which have been greatly kind of talked about. It then mulled around for quite a period of time up until 11 o'clock, 11:30. It might be sad, but because I bought into Bitcoin, I have stayed up all night, and I have tracked it all night. And I tracked it for the majority of the previous evening as well. And I've identified, only on 2 days, what I've seen as a potential trend. So if you do buy this on a CFD or whatever, probably the best time to trade it is at night. Simple as that. It's not like Forex with its low liquidity. So obviously you have these massive moves, hence you saw with the pound when we had the votes on Brexit. But I'm going to give you a quick guide on this, and Bitcoin struggled to get up to 10,000 prior to midnight, and then as soon as Asia kind of came online, now it's not all China, because it's the first one that's obviously put some restrictions in place, but since China put restrictions on Bitcoin in place, the index has tripled anyway. Japan are crazy for it, and so most of Asia. So it hit 10,000 at 17 minutes past 12, by 106 10.1, 120 10.2, 129 10.3, 157 10.5. Then you started seeing some volatile movements in both directions. It dropped 150 points in 4 minutes. It hit a high just before 5 o'clock at 10.681. Now, yesterday you saw a drop off at 5:30 and it dropped right through, and it happened again today. It dropped from that high down to 10,381, which basically meant that obviously there's a sell-in coming in at just after 5 o'clock in the morning. There's a buy-in between 12 and 3 heavy. So obviously you can do if you do Forex, etc., you can see exactly what the opportunity is in there. Then we fell down to 10,100 at 6:15. Since then, obviously, we've strengthened up again. But as we stand, Bitcoin's at 10,241 to buy, rather similar to where it was at the close at 4:30 yesterday. So my personal gain is in place, which all I can say there. I'll be watching it to see if I can secure it by 4:30 today. So
I'm very impressed with the with IG's $60 spread. I really feel that that's hitting the 21st century in a positive way, but I'm sure they've got a reason for that.
Well, I haven't looked at other indexes to see what their spread is, but I agree with you, Zach. But 60 is the average, but it can be as much as 100 with them. What was the big news with Bitcoin yesterday, which is huge news in my opinion, and it might create some regulation in the market, but it won't be till next year, and I think before that occurs, we'll probably hit 15,000, is that you've got 4 now major players stating that they're going to do the future. So it was originally CME, it's now CME and CBOE, Cantor Fitzgerald, and the big one, NASDAQ. So NASDAQ is going to do Bitcoin futures from the new year. So that basically gives more credibility and credence to it. Now, I was watching CNBC yesterday afternoon, between 3 and 5, and when I was watching that, there was a lot of general conversation, but there's a strong rumor now that Bitcoin is on the verge of being accepted by Amazon for some forms of purchasing. Now, if that happens, we basically got the currency.
It'll become the world's default currency, won't it?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. But at its high yesterday, which was at 11,395, the valuation of Bitcoin even then was 190 billion dollars, which is the equivalent of 140 billion pounds. So as a fraction of the size of other currencies. So there's a lot more money to go into this. But when obviously we go to futures, the big money will come in. And that's a brief summary. I've done the results of today. There's nothing that really stands out. So there wasn't any, that's why I've emphasized more on Bitcoin. The finals came through from Daily Mail. They slightly down, profits down. Divvy up 3%, nothing spectacular. Granger landlord, sorry, nothing spectacular again, although rental income is up. Divvy's up 8%, doesn't stand out as a special. Marston's Brewery, again a final, nothing spectacular, 10% up on revenue, 3% up on profits. There's a small organisation with a small market cap. You might want to put this one in the screen, Zach. It's got a ticker code of OTB, and it's a travel agent called On the Beach, which I'm sure a lot of us would like to be now with the cold weather outside. This travel company has gone up 17% on revenues. So all the turnover is 83.6 million. Market cap is 521. It's working on a PE of 30.56. It does pay a divvy. It's 57% up for the year, and as you can see, it's a positive chart. The dividend's gone up this morning. 2.8% compared to 2.2% of last year, 27.2. The profits are up by 33.8%. Fantastic margin because they're making 28.5 million out of an 83.6 million turnover. So that's quite a high rated forward PE on a sector which is quite often out of favour, which is travel, and obviously it's doing the right thing. So in terms of very quickly on interims, pay points come out and nothing spectacular again there. Total dividend 27.5p, only up by 0.3 of a penny. Their revenue's down, their margin's down, their profit is virtually flat, so it's not worth looking at. And lastly, Graham King, which is another pub brewer with 3,040 managed pubs. They're down 24% year to date. They are struggling more so than Marston's. Their revenue was down 1.2% and their profits down 8%. So that's a quick summary of the market, Zach.
Thank you very much, Russell. Thank you for chipping in there when I couldn't actually hear anything, could barely see anything at that time, 7:30. But I'm working fully now after my Bluetooth.
Well, the only thing I would say
incident.
to you, when you're going through your chart, Zach, and it's something which I
Yeah.
haven't looked at totally, but it's again another cryptocurrency. You might want to put up Ethereum. Ethereum, when we talk about Bitcoin's gain, Ethereum has gone up 9,000% this year.
Yeah.
It's and it's got a
Try and find it.
it's massive. It's some people are talking it's going to replace Bitcoin in some aspects.
Yeah, well, we can see the chart there. So really massive move there. Has actually come off slightly off the top, but it's supposed to be, according to some, the next Bitcoin. So we'll see how that goes. But currently at $445 or so. Okay, I just wanted to go quickly through the major markets because I didn't get a chance to do that earlier on because I couldn't hear anything. Thank you, Russell. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
And starting off, I think with pound dollar after the sort of the sellout. I can't really describe it as anything else. We've had the move higher already all week, but never really looked bearish, I suppose. 135, the obvious figure to go for. Here we've got, this is the 5-minute chart. Here we've got a rising trend channel based around 134.40, top of the channel heading towards 135, well, basically even. So hopefully above or within those two parameters, we're still heading higher. Other highlights, dollar yen, I think that surprised, well, it probably should have surprised. We had big resistance there, 111.70. That melted away yesterday during the session yesterday, just in one go. We just tested briefly. So yeah.
I'm just going to interrupt you. A couple of people are saying they can't see anything on the screen. Now, I'm seeing your ETX platform. I'm seeing the chart. Could everybody just use the chat box quickly to say yes or no if you're seeing the green chart? Yeah, okay. It looks as if John and Jason, I'm not sure what's happening. Everybody else seems to be okay. Normally the best thing to do is to log back out and back in, but the system is working okay. I think majority are seeing the screen fine. So sorry. Okay, carry on, sir. Thanks.
No worries. So basically, a nice, effectively inverted head and shoulders formation coming in there for dollar yen. So hopefully there'll be a bit more follow through up to the next logical level there, which is 112.70. But nice turnaround there, and obviously. I suppose slightly at odds with the tech sell-off, which tends to be a bit of a course for going into the yen, into the yen, and obviously bringing this cross down. So that maybe that implies that the tech sell-off isn't actually that serious. Moving on to if I can get that back, the main currencies, euro dollar. Here, still consolidating, but basically you can see that it's got support there around the 118.20 level, which was resistance on the way down. I suppose at this stage, really, you'd be expecting that parabolic indicator to give us the right direction in terms of heading back towards the 119.50 peak at the beginning of the week. Reasonable setup there in terms of risk reward at the moment. Onto the indices, and just want to look at, got rid of that one, but want to look at the DAX if I can. But rather, well, hopefully after the very sharp sell-off that we saw a couple of days ago, hopefully now we've consolidated that, and the same sort of situation, finding support towards the 13,000 level, the big round number, happens time and time again. For these indices, uptrend line there from last week fits quite nicely, really. What's that heading at 13,040? We're currently at 13,060, so really quite a nice setup with that trend line, and then the parabolic support, and obviously the low of yesterday, just around the 130.30 level. So hopefully the DAX will do what it has normally done in the recent past and rally back again. Onto the FTSE, and here we've got an early attempt to break higher. A lot of resistance here at 73.80, 73.80 and 74. I suppose 40 have been the levels for this market in the recent past. Just going on onto the wider perspective there on the half-an-hour chart. So you can see that that those two levels have come in. It'll be interesting to see now whether for the start of today's session we get blocked to 73.80, which was previously support for this market. So at the moment, looking a little bit weak, let us say, in terms of a recovery, unlike the DAX. Onto the Dow, obviously onwards and upwards. 5-minute chart here. It has been, even though it became less of an acute angle on the upside, has been relentless really in terms of the rally here that we've seen. And really, while we're above that 23,920 area, you would expect you expect this to continue and make new highs. Finishing off the intraday charts with gold, and here we see the it's disappointing, let us say, never quite made it up to the 1300 level that we were hoping for with the setup earlier in the week. And after many attempts, we've broken down quite viciously, in fact, really. So resistance there, 1286, which formally support, and one would expect really a return back down towards the 1270, the low 1270s for this market with that rather nasty topping action. But over now to our next guest, if we can.
Zach, we've got John Adamson from ShareTalk.com going to be talking about share code BNR, and then we're going to go
Blenheim Natural Resources.
Yes.
So we'll hear from John, and then we'll cross to Ian Foster for a Forex markets update. Morning, John.
Hi, John.
Morning, Simon. Morning, Zach.
Right.
Okay?
Yes, hear you very well.
Before we start, actually, just apologies to those of you who are having trouble seeing the screen and are just listening in. There's certainly one or two of you having the same problem this morning. I'm afraid I can't explain why, but thanks for staying with us just on the audio anyway. But we'll struggle on. Thank you.
Hi, John.
Right. Okay. So Blenheim Natural Resources. This is essentially an investment vehicle. Don't confuse it with a mining company, essentially. So what they do is they're investing very much in the electric vehicle space, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this over the next 6 to 12 months as sort of the demand for the raw materials for electric vehicles gathers pace. So for me, it's not enough to just be the first company on AIM to have a cobalt play or a significant lithium play or whatever. It's about, I guess, how quickly are they going to get it out of the ground? How profitable is it going to be? Who are the partners that they're working with? So Blenheim traditionally have been hovering around the sort of £0.005 sort of range. I can't actually see the chart that you've got up there, Zach, but I've got another version of it up myself, so I can vaguely see what it's been doing the last 6 months or so. This morning they've actually had 4 RNSs out this morning, which is a bit strange, but there we go. So across the 4 RNSs, the first one is saying that their key shareholder, which is Xantus, they have distributed their 11% of their holding in BNR to the parent company, which is Future Fuels. And they've had their half-yearly report, which confirms that they've got around 1.5 million in the bank. Very little incoming. And to be fair, not a lot of outgoing either, so bar the investments. So their overheads are relatively low, so that's not a bad thing. So the 2 key acquisitions that they've made then this morning are both in the lithium and cobalt areas. So cobalt especially is having a strong run at the moment, and I expect that to continue ever further as more interest in electric vehicles continues. So the lithium exposure is being held in Mali in Africa and Niger, and the cobalt exposure is going to be in Cameroon. So this is only 40%, 25% respectively, but in both areas they've gained access to six permits on the lithium side and five licenses. Sorry, no, it is 6 on the Cameroon cobalt side as well. So, but that's only a 25% stake. So there's options on both to increase those stakes. What I would say, I mean, I've followed this stock relatively recently purely because of the sort of social media chatter around it. So it always concerns me with stocks like this when there is that kind of social media chatter with very little happening, or very little happening that is out there in the market. It does suggest to me it's slightly leaky, for want of a better phrase.
You're not being cynical here, are you, John?
I'm not being cynical. I think I'm actually just telling the truth, to be honest. So you've got those 4 RNSs out today. I think that's going to push the share price higher. How significantly, I don't know. So I don't know what it's going to be on open, but I think it's going to get a decent rise today, but I don't think it's going to last along. You know, judging by the size of the assets, they're not massively significant to me.
You're almost suggesting that it wouldn't deserve to rise too much either. You know,
well, holders will obviously disagree, but it depending on what it opens at today, it may offer a decent entry point. But it's, for me, this is kind of a very good example of a stock that's been sort of pumped to some degree prior to news. That news is obviously now out there. How quickly those people pumping it get out of that stock and let the rest in to take the fall, which is what tends to happen. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but for me, this has got all the hallmarks of that kind of process. So beware is my sort of recommendation on that. But like I say, I don't.
Well, the chart there actually.
Buy or sell these things, so I just sort of watch it, do what you like with it. But certainly on this one, read the financials and the background and the actual structure of the company. Because like I say, it's not a mining company; it's an investment vehicle. So it's a completely different kettle of fish in that respect.
Yeah, I was just going to say I did cover the chart a couple of days ago. And as you can see there from
Zach.
I'm part of the hype machine, and anybody disagrees with the bull market is going to be vilified. So that puts you in that. As I was with MRS the other day, so I'm not saying anything negative now. I love everyone. But at least on this chart, I mean, you have that support line from 0.5 and the notional top of channel target at 1 pence for what that's worth, which is probably not that much, but at least there is a sort of tram line destination towards a penny if the hype worked today, let's say, or the hype works today.
Yep, very good. I mean, and just lastly, very quickly before I go, I promise this is my final plug for our event on Friday. So this is a Share Talk event at Village Hotel in Walsall Friday evening, and we've got a company, very interesting company called East Tower Communications, which most people won't have heard of. It's an American mobile broadband infrastructure company. So they basically install the antennas that deliver your 4G wireless broadband, which is going to be more and more increasingly used as we get these city broadband deals coming into play, and certainly with the introduction of driverless vehicles and what have you, there'll be much higher demand for wireless broadband. These guys are going to IPO on standard listing Q1 2018, and they will be discussing sort of a pre-IPO deal at our event on Friday. So if you want to hear more about that, come and have a look on sharetalk.com and get yourself booked on there.
Thank you very much, John Adamson from Share Talk. Speak to you very soon.
Thank you, Zach.
Over to Ian Foster, I hope. How are you today, Ian? Are you there?
Hello.
Hi, Ian. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Zach. I just wasn't unmuted,
gonna
but
run
I am now. You can hear me okay?
Run
Yeah?
through the charts. Yeah. Run through the major markets.
Yeah, well, again, we have got bullishness here, obviously. Quite a volatile day yesterday in the pound dollar. We have bullishness, as you can see here from the daily chart. The market's moving on up. It has broke through this resistance. It's broke through this 134.43 level I talked about yesterday. So again, it seems to, at this stage, Zach, I'm sure you will agree, it seems to be heading further north. At this minute in time, if we look in the smaller time frame chart, we have got on a 5-minute chart here on cable, we have on the red bars. But on our guidance chart, the slightly bigger time frame is 15. So from an intraday perspective, I will be looking for these bars to turn blue before I'll be taking any buy signals. But again, because it seems to have went past its hurdles in an interim period, I will be looking for, as I say, long signals. I think probably a better trade, maybe setting up, maybe not better, but certainly is the euro dollar. I think could be quite a buy, could be a good buy this morning. And the reason I say that, look at the price action yesterday here on this bar here, which is the daily time frame here I'm looking at. And the high there we have of round where that horizontal line is, which is what round about 118.83, I believe. And I think the market's heading up to take that out to the upside. Will I just confirm the highs? The high there is 118.82.5. It's at 62 at this minute in time. Again, if you click onto the 5-minute chart, you've got both the 15-minute and the 5-minute in blue bars. All right, there's a little bit of a retracement going here, but any retracement at this stage maybe is going to be a buying opportunity to take that 82.5 out to the upside, perhaps go further north again. Looking again into the indexes, just very quickly, our old favorite, Zach, Bitcoin, made these massive moves, as you know. We've shown this is our price action recently, but what we have here, we've got red bars have appeared, yes, in a lower time frame, or in making a lower high also, but it hasn't followed through. It has reversed, and now it's went into green bars. So what I'm looking for, we've made a higher high here from the previous high. If we make a higher confirmed low here, a blue bar to appear, I'll quickly flick over to my 15-minute chart, and I will see where we are. It's still in red mode. No buy for me at this minute in time, but I'll be keeping an eye on that. Obviously, you know, as you know better than I do, Bitcoin does not like going short. It much rather prefers going long. So far, I have. Sorry.
No, I agree. I think it reintroduced the concept of the untested low. So it makes a low and then just never goes anywhere near that low again. Which is, if you're a trader, you normally, you have like yesterday went to some 8,900 or something like that after falling 20%, let's say. The lowest low after that was about 500 points higher, which isn't very nice.
I know, and I mean, obviously, as you know, as you've been talking earlier, the spreads have went up. I know Intertrader now is a 100-point spread. IG is 60. You're quite correct, but they've increased that from what it was 25 points earlier. So they've moved that over this last few days up to a 60-point spread, which is very good. But as the Intertrader have moved theirs from 28.
That means that these people are open for business on Bitcoin, or it's no, for me, having a spread that wide is like a car without an engine, really.
Yeah, well, you know the reason why. Obviously, they're probably, they've offered the product, and there's been probably quite a few making money on the long side anyway out of it, and they're trying just to
get it back.
You're quite correct. They don't like that, Zach. I did look just before we go. I did look at Ethereum, but it's a different ball game. And I mean, the time frame chart, Zach. Certainly from a 30-minute on Bitcoin, I'm down to a 5-minute to get any kind of a pattern.
Well, actually, I mean, for people who don't know Ethereum, in fact, it's more like trading a stock than trading an index, which obviously Bitcoin is more traded like a very, very volatile version of, say, the DAX or the Nasdaq or something like that.
Yeah, Ethereum. If you know, like a 30-minute chart here, look, this is the, it's not the most beautiful picture in the world. So I keep an eye on it because obviously, but it's certainly not. It's not like a Bitcoin trade at this minute in time. Definitely not for me. But I will keep an eye on it. As I say, it has been another cryptocurrency that is certainly moved so many thousand percent. So it's worth a look, certainly, if it takes off, because if Bitcoin keeps rallying, you know yourself, to trade it and the spread's getting larger and the moves getting larger, it is going to leave it very difficult for us all, you know.
Okay.
Again, the FTSE week, the DAX week. I noticed the DAX yesterday quite weak bar. I know you've said that the 13,000 level is key, but I just want to kind of turn that its head a little bit. We had this bullish bar, daily bar. We came up to the upside yesterday, but look where we closed yesterday's cycle, very bearish, and that there we've given a probability just by reading a daily chart that we've got a higher probability of taking yesterday's low out. Now, of course, yesterday's low was at 13,029, so we're not far away. In fact, we went to 30.32 this morning, or 13,032. So again, you know, I'd like to, if there's any buys coming in here, I would like to see them coming in underneath a break of 30.29. And look, this is the price action at this minute in a 5-minute chart. Not the most pleasant, but we're in green bars, so I mean that would have to turn into blue for me. You know, a break below 13.029. Maybe it'll not do that. Maybe it'll do the complete opposite. But we only can trade what we see. But thank you very much.
Thank you to you, Ian. Just a quick look, if I can, at the movers on the market. We've got Serica Energy leading the pack. I think it was returned from suspension. Prospects Oil, private investor favorite. Pantheon Resources, another private investor favorite, and Kefi as well. So maybe a good day for the punters. FTSE itself, I can't believe it's down. It's down 33 points at the moment, 73.60. So that fear of 73.80 capping the price so far materializing. But that's it for today's show. Hopefully see you tomorrow at 7:30.